We're recording now.
Hello. My name is Jesse McDonald. In this project, I set up and manage the communications we use to talk to each other and the place where we held meetings. I also set up the YouTube channel and manage it, and this is where we upload the videos that sometimes we need for milestones, and I aided a bit in UX development, and I am a JavaScript backend developer.
Hey, my name's Nick Becker. I did the UI and UX development. I did the JavaScript backend. I aided in HTML and CSS, and a presentation of the final deliverable.
Hello, my name is Alex Ochoa. I aided in the UX and UI development of this project. I also did a lot of work on this PowerPoint as well as the documentation process over this course of the project. I also aided in the JavaScript backend, specifically in the sound development side of the game.
Hello, my name is Noah Legault. I created the art assets that you can see on the screen before you. I did a lot of the development for the backend for game logic, so basic game counters and stuff like that. I helped with the UI development, and I made all the sounds that you'll be hearing in the game.
Hi, I'm Andrew Donate. I help with the user interface and user experience development, mainly with the buttons interactions as well as some animations. I also did most of the JSON backend, which involved multiple files allowing the player to save and delete data. I did the website integration for GitHub Pages to ensure the release was as responsive as possible, as well as manage the GitHub repository.
So this is a direct link to our Battle Owls game. It is hosted off of GitHub, and this is the direct link that you can use to play the game.
So our purpose and motivation for choosing what type of code we should use for the project, we originally gravitated towards C++ and using WebAssembly. Eventually, we found out that it was a little bit too much out of our league, so we decided to head towards more basic level of programming using HTML, JavaScript, JSON, and CSS. Our decision to do a video game design was finalized because of a group effort. One person first came by to suggest a video game, and we all decided to collaborate on that idea, and eventually became the idea of Battle Owls. The game's primary objective was to serve a platform for testing and honing in logical design skills, as well as to ensure that the end user, was able to receive as much fun as possible and able to repeat the process over and over until they get bored. Next slide, please.
So when we were creating our game, we decided to have a target audience for all ages, as it's Snake, it's kind of inclusive like that. We designed the game to be very easy to understand and could possibly improve the coordination reflexes of younger children, 5 and older. It was inspired by the original Snake and sort of Slither.io games, which were also kind of inspired by Snake as well. We use that target audience to sort of make the designs of basically everything a lot more simple and appropriate, bright colors, not much dark aspects. And everything was designed with that audience in mind. It was made to be simple, appropriate, and eye-catching. And obviously, don't leave your children on the computer for too long. Next slide, please.
All right, so for our system implementation infrastructure, We used 4 languages: HTML, CSS, JS, and JSON. So for the HTML, that was for our web development. CSS was for styling our page and making it look the way we wanted it to. JS was used for a lot of our system logic and gameplay logic, and our JSON was used for a lot of storage for our databases. So our database was all compiled and stored in that same JSON file, and it was supposed to be able to be exported by the player for later use. It holds the player's information and all of their own cosmetics, and it is written in Replit, and then we all sent it over to GitHub pages for it to be able to be used with a better runtime, and it's less lag. Next slide, please.
All right, the main menu. We wanted it to be able to, where you could see everything up here, your XP, the weekly challenges, all your skins. As you can see at the top left, there's an XP bar. As you play the game, you'll get more XP, you get more unlockables. Shows your high score there. So, you know, the more you play, you get up to 10, 20, it'll keep it up there so you can see what your best score is. You got the options, so you can change the sound, hide your name if you don't want that to be showing up. We have the weekly, daily challenges. Those will change, you know, the weekly, daily. They also count towards XP leveling up to where you could unlock new skins. If you see over there, you could unlock new ones and click the arrows and flip between different colors. And then in the middle, single player, you could play by yourself, or multiplayer, you could play with a friend. Next slide. The start screen. So when you click single player, you'll get a prompt. It'll show you all the buttons you need to play the game. WASD, up, down, left, right. You got Q, you could use your abilities. P for the pause, so if you need to go do something, click P, the pause the game. Shows your current eggs at the top, so it shows you what score you pretty much have. You can see the landmines there. To avoid those, the worms, which is what you need to collect. If you look at the bottom left, it'll show the ability icon. When you click Q, you know, depending on your ability, it'll do whatever the ability is. And it also shows your speed. So every worm you get, it goes up in speed and the game gets quicker and quicker. But you got to see that when you get in the game. Next slide.
So as part of the UX UI design, one of the main functions we wanted to implement as soon as possible was the pause, game over, and hint screen. During development, we had feedback stating that they had issues figuring out how the game was supposed to end, how you're supposed to interrupt the game to allow the user to take some time off or take a break and whatnot, as well as to clarify how exactly to play the game. So the pause screen, as an example, was used to, of course, allow you to pause the game to relieve you to do whatever you need to do prior and then resume the game on the fly. As well as if you messed up, you can restart the game instantly, or if you just feel like not playing anymore, you can always click the quit button. Same thing applies to game over. In the previous slide, they mentioned that you have to hit any of the obstacles. Upon hitting the obstacles, game over screen will appear, allowing you to either replay the game again or go back to the main menu and change anything you would like, or just quit the game outright. The hints overlay before the game even starts shows you the controls of the game, WASD, up, down, left, right, as well as how to use the abilities in pause menu and to click start. These are extremely important, as without it, previously we just had the game instantly run, leading to the player being caught off guard, as well as not knowing how to play the game. Next slide, please.
So this is our list of non-functional requirements. They're based on performance, reliability, usability, and security. So just go through these real quick. Battle Owls shall have a responsive control to ensure smooth and enjoyable gameplay. Battle Owls should also load quickly. This will minimize the time it takes for players to start playing the game and get into the action. We also get into reliability, which is very important for software engineering and the whole development process as a whole. Battle Owls shall have a minimal downtime for maintenance or updates to ensure uninterrupted gameplay. This is very important. We see this very often in games nowadays. You see downtimes of 2 hours and there's a lot of reports and it becomes a problem. Battle Isle should handle errors and exceptions gracefully, providing appropriate feedback to players. Feedback is very important. Having a system where we can get feedback from players is important. It is not quite integrated yet, but we do hope to have that in the future. We have usability as well. Battle Isle's user interface shall be, pardon. Battle Isle's user interface shall be intuitive and easy to navigate, catering to players of different skill levels. This is very important as our age demographic is starting out at a low age, and we do want to tend to all ages. So we need to keep it censored for the children, and we do need to keep it enjoyable for the adults as well. We should also provide clear instructions and tutorials to help new players understand the gameplay mechanics. This is important because if you don't know how to play the game, then you will not have fun with us at all. Battle Isle shall support multiple input methods such as WASD or arrow keys. This is just to tailor to whoever is playing. Some people prefer WASD and some people prefer arrow keys. And of course, security. We shall protect user accounts and personal information from unauthorized access or data breaches. This is one of the most important things on this list, in fact, and user security and account security is very important nowadays.
Some other non-functional requirements in the maintainability section, the code's game base shall follow a modular and well-documented design principles to facilitate future enhancements and bug fixes. For the most part, our code does follow these guidelines, especially in the well-documentation section. Or the modularity section is somewhat modular, but in the future, if we were able to improve upon it, we would like to be able to split up the code into multiple different files to make the code more readable in the future, as well as even more modular as it currently is. The game shall have a version control system using GitHub in place to track and manage code changes. For the most part, we have had zero issues using GitHub. We were able to see any of the changes that have happened, as well as using Replit, even though it's not a version control system, being able to see in real time the changes being done on the code and be able to test that while it's being edited was a lifesaver. The game development process, including proper testing, debugging, and error logging mechanisms to facilitate maintenance. As I said earlier, using GitHub helped with that to see what code was changed, as well as Replit to see what's changed and be able to undo any changes we needed to in order to solve why the game would not work in some instances, as well as the proper testing part, being able to upload the game to Replit, be able to test it on Replit, as well as uploading it to GitHub pages and testing it on there, seeing how much more responsive it is compared to Replit. Compatibility wise, being able to play the game on most major web browsers such as Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and Microsoft Edge. Due to Microsoft Edge also being Chromium based, testing for those two was a lot easier. Safari and Firefox, on the other hand, were a little bit more tricky, but we were able in the end to get them compatible on those two web browsers. Excuse me. The game's supporting various screen sizes and resolutions, adapting to different devices and device configurations. This part was also a main issue, especially with UI scaling. As part of developing the UI UX, we had a lot of issues with different monitor sizes and different window sizes, changing how the game looks. Closer to the end of the project, we were able to figure out what the issue was and able to fix that issue, as well as being able to adjust it be able to adjust the game live is not implemented, but in the future, if we were to change that, I would love myself and as well the team to work on that to improve that functionality. Next slide, please.
All right, the finished features. This is where it gets a little bit more fun, where we're able to customize the game to how we want it, to where it differentiates from any other, snake variant of a game. We're able to add our own things like the owl. It's obviously made off of snake, but we decided to do owls, battle owls. And collecting the eggs, little things like that, little things like the landmine, anything like that, where we're able to have our own custom type of game. This also involves the skins. We can get creative however we want. We can make any color skin. Do anything like that. Make it an unlockable once you hit certain levels. Little things also like, so once we get the worm, the game would speed up, and it made it a little bit more fun when we were testing that out. Trying to figure out the the perfect speed about which the game should increase. You know, because if you make it too quick, the game just gets really hard really fast. Or if you make it too slow, the game stays slow for a long time. It was fun to mess around with that and figure out what the perfect speed was. Um, Little things like the XP, like I said, unlocking the skins, pretty much all the little things that you see that makes it more custom to our game, that makes it different from any other game. Next slide.
Like said earlier, Battle Owls is very much based off Snake. However, currently right now, we don't really have the ability for more eggs to trail behind the player. We couldn't really figure out how to do it correctly in a way that was sufficient enough, that would be quality enough, and the multiplayer capabilities where you would be able to battle your friends. It's just we didn't really have the time to properly develop them, and it was better that we focused on polishing up the features for, at the very least, single player. Another thing, experience points are supposed to be gained after each round of play and can be also gained at a future update through weekly and daily challenges. Uh, we've given the user the ability to mute in-game sounds, name their account, their Battle Owl, and participate in multiplayer gameplay, which again we haven't integrated yet, and view the current progress of or their daily and weekly challenges. Next slide, please. So, what we learned about, in general, just about software development, we have much better knowledge on JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and JSON. We learned how to actually use Trello, and we also learned how to use Replit as an IDE. It actually was very helpful using it as an IDE. It really helped a lot seeing that in-person changes. It had a pretty neat history thing as well, so we could see what changes, what happened when, who did it. That was also very helpful. And one of the most important things we learned was project management, how to structure proper workloads. However, this one was very very sloppy in a sense. We had to do a lot of trial and error. We had to do delays, a lot of stress, some crunch hours, which is certainly not ideal in a development project at all. Time management was very important, and I think this was a great experience to learn how essential it really is in development processes. Next slide, please.
So this is our Trello. So we talked about on the last slide that we learned how to use Trello. So part of what we did was we listed off different things that we wanted to get done with our project. And we kind of had like basic ideas at the start. We wanted to like make sure that we had good communication with the team. We had good ideas of like who was doing which parts of the project. And then we wanted to lead that into what did we specifically want to do with individual parts of the project. So we wanted to have worms to collect. We wanted to add egg duplication and movement so that we could have like a trail kind of like in Snake. And we wanted to add in all these different functions. So we listed off a bunch of them here in order to show what we got done, what we didn't get done, and what we were able to really do with our time and with the project as a whole. Next slide.
So this is going to be our workspace. Basically, what we did is we used Replit. It keeps a history of everything that we do, and it compiles video for us. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this video, and hopefully you can kind of get the gist of it. We are going to put this in 2x speed, just because you don't want to sit here for 8 minutes. But as you can see, Replit goes ahead and records every change that you're going to see happening. And it also keeps track of who is making those changes. This is kind of how we kept a history and a dialogue of what was going on and how we kind of stayed on top of each other and figured out what needs to be done. And it did help a little bit for the development process and planning. Again, we, as mentioned prior, we did have problems with time management. I know for a few of us, it was kind of our first time working as a big team like this on a project. And a lot of us did not have much experience with game development. So seeing what was done and kind of how it was done and going back and seeing, we learned a lot, and it did keep a nice history. So if whoever did need this in the future, it would be helpful. So I hope you get the gist of it here. Again, just making changes. You can see Phoenix here making changes to the JavaScript for the single player game mode. And I will go ahead and carry on from that.
All right, and then now for the product demo. What we did for the product demo is I had the video muted, but I covered over some of the basic functions of the game, both in terms of the main menu, what different things you could change within the main menu. So you have your name that you can change at the bottom with the change name function. You have the skins you can change off on the side. And I kind of circle around and like show a few different functions of the main page. So right here, I just kind of typed out my name, hit enter, and there it pops up right there. So I was able to carry over my name both on the main page and into the game itself, which you'll see in a second here. Yep, there you go. So you're able to see what ability was selected in the bottom right, and that same ability will be carried over into the game here. And then you can see different little sound effects. So I lost. You can go back to the main screen, or you can restart the game and play it all over again. But when you're in the main screen, you can look through, you can change different effects, you can change your ability, you can change your name again, and you could change all your options. So I set the name to hide off, so now you don't see the top, you don't see the name anymore on the top right, and you see that the ability has changed, and it has a different effect, which I'll show in a second. There we go. Yep. So the slow time function will allow you to slow down time for 3 separate times, and you can use it to make your run a lot more safe. That'll be all.
And that's pretty much going to summarize the total project. I hope you enjoyed it, and go Owls.